G'day, legends. Welcome to the Pot Noodle by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, or as the guy from the pizza shop called me tonight, Joel. Hope you're all tuning in, doing well. How you going, Shano?
I'm good, thanks, Jared. I'll get that right straight off the bat. I'm good, thanks, mate. Should say off the bat, Happy Lunar New Year to everybody celebrating. My partner Bridget and I got out yesterday and spent some time around Chinatown in Melbourne, partaking in all the Lunar New Year celebrations. It is the Year of the Dragon, really good to just indulge in all the festivities. And I particularly like the lion dance. Really enjoyable time, and obviously not sorry to indulge, but good to catch up with yourself and your lovely wife on Saturday at the victory game too, Jared, where we saw Melbourne Victory put in a very, very Brendan Rodgers Celtic performance. It was almost a carbon copy.
Why are you mentioning that now? You've just pretty much gone and stolen my final thought.
Oh, no.
No, it was it's good catching up with you as well. That sort of stuff, yeah, but. Nah, good fun. I've got the rest of the pod to come up with something, Shane.
We got to workshop this. This has got to be like the third or fourth time I've done this now. I feel terribly guilty.
Oh, that's brilliant. Nah, that's funny. Don't stress. It was it was a good weekend. Now, what dance was that you said you saw?
The lion dance.
Okay, do it. That's your penance for stealing my final thought.
No, I'm not. I'm going to take the fine. I can't even. I'll take the money punishment.
How you going, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joel. I got some good news. I got some good news. My cousin and his mate are moving to Melbourne. Next year. No, this year. So yeah, June this year they're moving to Melbourne. Both big Celtic fans, so they'll be looking out for a CSC or two. So I'm sure you guys can come out. Yeah. Buzzing about it. I've got some family over here now. So yeah, good news.
Lovely. Now I'm just going to do something because everyone, if you can't tell, John's been for a bit of a run up there in Brisbane. Look how pink his face is. So I'll go and sympathy with him. And
thanks for highlighting it. I appreciate it.
We'll just just stir you up too. Just to be a good banter. Yeah, I love it. So yeah, just all things considered, we've it's been an interesting week since the last pod. Plenty's happened. Got some. What I'd like everyone tuning in to do is just make the show as interactive as possible. So let us know. We do our player focus later on. So let us know your thoughts on each of the players in the game. I love Mrs. is ganging up on me. Be nice, Joel. Lovely. Yeah. So brilliant. Yeah, so what we're going to do is let us know your thoughts on each of the players so we can bring up those comments when we're going through the player focus on it. We've got a few little topics to discuss later on about like Lil Abada. It's one of them we want to discuss. We're going to talk about Bernabei as well, so there's a comment there already. And then we've got a few other things like something I'm going to touch on later, but I want to get your opinions as well. Brendan Rodgers has mentioned that a trophyless season is not an option at Celtic, which we all well and truly aware of. It's Captain Obvious. So let us know your thoughts on that in the comments as well, and we'll bring that up later on as well before Shane and Johnny dive in on that studs up for the last topic of the pod. So, Shane, what was your thoughts on the on Celtic 2, St Mirren 0 in the Scottish Cup away from home? It's always a tough place to play. So what we'll go through first of all is the starting lineup. So there was a bit of a tactical tweak there. Instead of playing the 4-2-3-1, we played like a 4-4-1-1 with Bernabei, Scales, Welsh, Ralston as the defence, Joe Hart in goals, obviously. Palmer on the left wing, two-man midfield of McGregor and O'Reilly, Maeda on the right wing, Kyogo playing behind Ida. What was your thoughts when you saw that lineup, and how do you think the change of tactics went?
Well, I was pretty happy with the slight tweak. I think we've sort of been talking for a little while about wanting to see something a little bit different, and combined with that, wanting to see something where Kyogo is more involved in the game because he's been so isolated in this Brendan Rodgers sort of style team since he came back. And so I like the idea of him sort of partnering with Ida, or as it turned out, probably playing just behind him more in that more advanced role, kind of like a number 10 or second striker. So when I saw that, I was pretty excited. Not sure it had the overall desired effect on the match, but I thought from the perspective of actually getting Kyogo more involved in the game, I thought it actually was pretty effective. And that first goal, I think, was testament to it. You know, you had the break on, great ball played out wide. Palmer, he's always looking for that late run. And where you'd normally see Kyogo leading the line and having to sort of, you know, jostle between two big centre halves, you've got Ida doing that, being physically imposing, dragging them away, and Kyogo is able to make that late darting run into the box. And you know what he's like when he gets on the ball and he's got space and time. He's quality, and we saw that there. So from that perspective, I thought it had a really good, I guess, impact on getting him more involved in the game. And I thought his first half involvement was probably the best we've seen from him for a little while.
Yep, have to agree with you. So, Johnny, your thoughts on the lineup and the change of formation?
Yeah. Well, I much like Shane, I thought the change in formation was very positive. I kind of saw it. I never actually looked at the lineup, and I just started watching the game. And the way that I saw it was more of a sort of like a modified 4-3-3. In that, when we were in the attacking phase, we still had that sort of similar shape. Except the midfield was kind of like in that inverted diamond from what we're used to, with that Kyogo at the front there, and it worked. Like it worked really, really well. The overall game, I thought, was better than the previous Hibs game, but it still had areas where you could see deficiencies. Mirren had their chances. There was, a couple of ones. I forget the player's name, but the bicycle kicks and the off the crossbars and it. Yeah, Rogic, yeah. Or Gogic, sorry, Rogic. If only.
I'm getting excited.
Gogic, yeah, I sure did.
Yeah, look, it was one of those ones where I think the restructure worked in our favor. We definitely seemed more flowing. So the formation worked in that sense. And I think we've spoken about before, and Shane was alluding to it there as well, where Kyogo really does better when he is facing the goal. When we had Rodgers' formation with Kyogo at the front, where Kyogo really needs to be the player that holds the play up and midfielders, but he's not that type of forward. He needs to be running at the goal, and that's where he's going to get his chances, and that's where he's going to score his goals. And I think in that sort of like false nine, is it? I don't know. The sort of like the cam role, but sort of somewhere between a cam and a striker. That seemed to be okay for Kyogo. That seemed to work. So yeah, I think the formation overall. We always talk about Brendan Rodgers' lack of technical adaptability. Maybe the sort of 1-4-1-4 or the modified 4-3-3 or whatever we want to call it. It seems to work in certain games. We'll see if he sticks to it.
What it looked like to me, John, is I'm going to go into the depths of Football Manager right here. Dan in the comments from the Thursday pod, he'll love this sort of thing. But I said it was a 4-4-1-1. That's how it looked when we were defensive. When we were in attack, it looked like it was a 4-2-3-1. So with Maeda and Palmer playing up level with Kyogo. Kyogo wasn't playing as that number 10, that central attacking midfield. He was playing like more as a secondary striker off the big centre forward shoulder. So where you're saying that, like, where he's got to play, not facing away, he's not a centre forward, which is what Ida is, which is what O is. Kyogo's more a striker, where he needs to be getting the ball 2 feet facing the goals. And that goal that he scored, that was just case in point. He barely even made much connection on it, and he's just put it away. So it shows the talent that he's got and the skill he's got in his feet when he's used the right way. So it was great to see. I said on Thursday, I want to see more like for the old Socceroos fans, a Kuhl with Viduka playing off him, or Viduka with Kuhl playing off him, that sort of lineup. That's what we saw last night. And yeah, I was happy with that. So at the end of the day, he made a change. We all talk about, but the thing for me is we all talk about Rodgers' tactical ability and how good he is at adjusting. As you said, Johnny, he doesn't really do much of that. Where his tactical ability is good is when someone gets red carded and he's got to make a quick change on the fly, change of formation, make a sub and get on with it. That's his in-game tactics where I think he's good. We'll get on it in the second half, but the change of tactics later on when we made a couple of subs was average at best, in my opinion, and it changed the whole flow of the game again. So, yeah, I think where Rodgers' skill is that, as I said, red card, quick decision, don't think about it, just do it. He tends to be okay. But, yeah, overall, it was better than what we have seen for 60 minutes of the game anyway.
Agreed.
Yeah,
and this is a good St Mirren side as well. Remember, this is not like a, I don't say like a mug St Mirren, but this is a decent St Mirren. I've just checked there. I think they're 5th in the league, something like that. I can't remember.
They've been top 4 majority of the season, so
I think Kilmarnock ahead of them, but it's a good side, and they're a stronger side than Hibs.
They came out at us. They played. They took it to us. That first half, I didn't feel like anybody. Yeah, exactly, Andrew. I didn't feel like we had any real particular control of the game in that first half. Neither did they. It was both teams struggled to really get a kind of foothold in the game and imprint their sort of, I guess, dominance on it, if you want to call it that. So, yeah, and that's why I sort of, on the tactical tweak, it was good to see it, but I sort of come out of it with a little bit of trepidation because, okay, it seemed to work in a team that came at us and left a bit of space for us to exploit. I want to see how this is going to work against teams that actually sit back really deep and how effective this is going to be. So I'd love to see it again, but and I did like what I see, but I think they were kind of a little bit different to the norm of what we usually come up against. So we're going to have to see it when it comes up against a team that does the low block to see how effective it is.
Just for those listening on the audio podcast, the comment that Shane just agreed with Andrew on said, looks like St Mirren came to play and left some spaces open. So, and that's something that I was going to touch on as well. We had a couple of comments as well on that. But yeah, I'm really liking them. I think they're well coached. Was it Stephen Robinson, their gaffer? When he was at Motherwell, and the same deal here. His team's very well organised and they play nice football. So the only thing I wish that they would have a little bit better with the way they're playing is better quality pitch, because the style of football they've been playing lately deserves a better pitch. Andrew Galea is also saying St Mirren would have loved to have had Quan available. He's made a huge difference to them. On Quan, how awkward did he look when they showed him in the crowd wearing his St Mirren jacket, and the Celtic fans were like the other bay, not too far away from him? How odd did he? he was doing little looks and over here like, what do I do? What do I do? Sort of thing.
It was.
I thought it was funny.
But it's good. That's a good move for him. That's a great team. The St Mirren are flying, relatively speaking, for them, and good for the league and stuff. And we've now got a player that I think I'm happy to say that I kind of writ off. I don't know if everybody else did, but we all kind of said, well, at least the consensus was most of us saw something once and would like to have seen him take a loan somewhere and do well. And it seems like he's just landed that exact thing. So who knows the type of player we'll get back? He could be phenomenal for us. I mean, every other time that's happened and it's been a success, they have been phenomenal for us. The Ayers, the Christies, the whoever's.
Yeah. So just in general, I'm going to go through the first half. A couple of key points to discuss. I'm so glad the referee booked Palmer for diving. That was shocking. I'll just straight up. I don't like it when players dive, and the fact that it was one of our guys, I'm glad it was such an obvious one that he got a card for it. Deserved it. Shocking. Don't do that. Like, we're better than that. We can't be mocking the other mob across town if our guys are doing that. And I just thought that was piss poor from him. So I'm glad he got booked. Another thing in the first half I wanted to touch on was we did give away a lot of free kicks in this game, particularly around the edge of the box. So with that, I think we were fairly lucky because that's where we've been suspect the majority of the season from set pieces. St Mirren tend to be pretty organised with that. So I just thought, okay, our centre-back pairing and Joe Hart worked pretty well keeping everything organised there. So I give them a big up. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is we could have been down a couple at halftime. Joe Hart, I think that was one of his best games of the season. The form he's been in the last 3 or 4 games since we've come back Jared was saying here that they made it hard for us to play it for the back, caused a lot of turns. I don't think Joe Arter's had to work this hard outside of doing his hair. Exactly.
Fair.
Worked hard. He did the job. Those guys we'll talk about more a bit later on. But Shane, you got any other things from the first half you want to spotlight?
I agree with pretty much all of your points. But my favourite part of the first half was Bacchus getting pushed over by Kyogo and taking out the VAR.
Yeah. And then sulking as well.
Yeah, he wasn't happy, was he? You know, Bacchus and Jared will absolutely attest to this, has dished out a lot of kind of punishment on the field and, you know, kicked a lot of calves and shins. And, you know, Kyogo gave him a slight nudge. He tumbled over into the VAR and he wasn't having a bar of any kind of apology. And It was kind of ironic for a player that dishes us out. He couldn't really take it. But that was my favorite. And then it just seemed... I don't know if tin pot's the right word, but just watching them put the VAR back together and try and get all the cables plugged in and make sure it was working while, you know, and they were cutting into it during the footage. And, you know, you could hear, I had the Celtic TV comms and they were kind of like, look, do we really need to just go without it? Just leave it broken. You know, we don't need to fix it kind of thing. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Agreed. The only thing I'll say about the points we've made is I'm happy to accept that diving strategically, especially for a penalty, is part of modern football, right? It's part of the game. You have to do it well though. You can't tumble over and almost swan dive. Like that's it deserved a booking, and he either has to cut it out or get very smart very quick. But yeah, no, it was. We definitely could have gone away with another really nail-biting game, to be honest. And it seems that we're only a couple of games or a couple of mistakes away from us raging. I was absolutely fuming about another game.
Yeah,
Hibs game as well. Do you know what I mean? It was Hibs goal. Hibs goal came from a free kick outside of the box. You know, we gave more, just the same sort of fouls away in the St Mirren game. Like I say, hitting the crossbar could have been another really sore one. Could have been another draw. Could have been a loss. We weren't far off that.
Yeah, couldn't have been a draw, Johnny. It would have been extra time or a replay, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, you know what I mean. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it to be smart ass.
Yeah.
No, it could be definitely a game that could have gone either way. Like we won 2-0. But it was a 2-0 win for us that if they took their opportunities and we took all of our opportunities as well, could have easily ended up 4-4. That's the way I see the sort of game. So it was one of them, bit of an interesting one. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, RL77, good point. The low camera angle at St Mirren drives me up the wall. Is it St Mirren Stadium that also has a big bin sitting in the stadium as well, or is that a different one? I can't remember.
I think that's the other side of Glasgow. Isn't that a big bin?
Yeah, that's the stadium's a bin, yeah. Now, one of the stadiums, I can't remember which one it is, though, in the stand, there's actually a skip somewhere at the moment. I don't know if it's St Mirren's or...
I don't think it's St Mirren. I don't remember seeing it, so I don't think it's St Mirren.
A big skip. Govan, maybe? Is it in Govan? No.
We don't know. It's full of zombies. Yeah. So anyway, well, second half. I think the easiest way to sum that up is it was a game of... So the first half was both teams playing consistent football the whole game. The second half was like a 15-minute block of same as the first half. And then the last half an hour was like, we went back to the old way. So we made a few subs. I think it was, I can't remember who came off. I think it was Palmer come off because he was, already been booked. And was it Kyogo who came off? I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. So you take those two off. And then we suddenly go from this attacking thing with two main midfielders. We bring on, I think it was Bernardo was one of the guys who come on, if memory, and we went back to the three in the midfield again. So we went to like a 4-3-3 again. And if my memory is right, it's probably wrong.
No, I apologise. It was Ida that came off with Palmer, and then Kyogo pushed up front.
Yeah, that's it. I knew we went back to a 4-3-3. I just couldn't remember what the actual subs were. And when we went to that, it was kind of more of the same of what we've been seeing for the last few weeks, where there's not much going forward. The wing play was average again. So I'm a little over this whole being super cautious sort of thing. For me, I look at it and go, yeah, we got a good goal in both goals in both halves, whatever, fine. Like Maeda's goal was just, we'll get into them in the goals a little bit. So yeah, but Maeda's goal, I loved. He didn't even celebrate. It was a piss. I just love that part of it. But yeah, just all things considered, I just thought the second half was just really disjointed and hard to watch. And that's basically Brendan playing cautious and playing like he's under pressure, and he doesn't. Like, for me, we're 2 goals up. Let's go for the third. Let's go for the fourth. Let's just put the foot down, step on their throat. And Brendan's like, oh, I'm under pressure. I need to make sure I get the win here. So let's just tactical subs, change it up, make the game ugly, but let's just contain everything. And realistically, they probably could have scored 2 goals in that last 30 minutes, maybe 3, and done us mischief. So, Johnny, what was your thoughts on the second half?
That's pretty much my sentiment, to be honest. It was a completely forgettable half, to be honest. I'm not sure, apart from, I think the biggest talking point, as you pointed out, was Maeda's lack of celebration, to be honest, and that seems to have a lot of sort of question marks. Could be just fatigue. You know, he's probably a bit scunnered from coming back from the Asia Cup and stuff. But it's just as you were talking there, it kind of reminded me of the latter days of Mourinho, which different types of managers, I accept that, but Mourinho's very famous for at any costs winning a game, even at the cost of the beautiful game, right? So even if it's just boring to watch defensive football, as long as he gets a win, that's him happy. I get a sprinkling, a spice of Brendan Rodgers being quite similar, to be honest. He's got his tried and tested formation. He's got his tried and tested players. He doesn't really change too much. And we've all been spoilt by a previous manager who had a style of football that we all very much enjoyed to watch. And we were also quite annoyed by the last season of Rodgers in the way that he played his style of football. So I think it was just one of those, again, just like you're saying, reverting back to something that we're all kind of a bit bored with. And does it make us entitled? Probably. But are we allowed to be? Absolutely. It's Celtic, for God's sake. We're allowed to be entitled. We win everything, and we want to win well. And that's the end of that's just it. And it's an expectation that you have to have if you're a manager at Celtic. And I think Rodgers understands that. I just don't think he understands it enough to do anything about it, to be honest. So, yeah, 45 minutes for change formation is not a good precedent for me. So I don't feel like it's going to change going forward. I might be wrong. Normally I am.
Before we go to you, Shane, RL77, that's the famous St Mirren skip. It's in the corner, so I was right.
Oh.
There you go.
And Robert Gibson, which ties in what you were saying, Johnny, if there's a big skip, it would have been more interesting lifting the lid and looking inside it. Rodgers and Super brand of football drives me bonkers.
Yeah, that's it.
Shane, your thoughts on the second half, and you can chat about the. We've already spoke about the Kyogo goal, so you can talk about Maeda's one.
I'm a bit concerned by the fact that I've just watched 90 minutes of football, and I literally watched it. Maybe finished up about half an hour ago because I didn't stay up and watch it, and I had no idea and did not notice this skip. So, like, I'm just flabbergasted that I've completely missed that. I'm relatively positive about the result. I think overall a 2-0 win. It's a cup tie against premiership opposition away from home on the form that we've been in. I think to come away with 2-0 win is good. So I'm relatively positive from an overall result perspective. But on the second half, sort of echoing your sentiments, I thought when we got the second goal, and Bernabei deserves a lot of credit. Well, I digress. Bernabei deserves a lot of credit for that second goal because he gets the ball forward to Palmer, who then whips in a really good ball. Really dangerous cross. O'Reilly probably should bury it, to be honest. He doesn't, but Maeda is there on the spot just to tap it in. And yes, that lack of celebration was very noticeable. I couldn't really gather if it was anything more than just, geez, that's a real poacher's kind of goal, just right time, right place, or whether there was something a bit more to it. I'm still not sure. But good play from Bernabei, good persistence, and to get the ball to Palmer. And Palmer, who I thought had a really good game, whipped in a really good ball. Really dangerous cross. I thought O'Reilly should have buried it, but good on Maeda for being there to tap it in. I thought for probably about 10 to 15 minutes after the goal, I thought we looked really good. And I thought it was probably the only time in the game that I thought we had control and that we were knocking it about, and they were all of a sudden back in their shell a little bit. And to your point, Jared, it was actually the substitutions, particularly the sort of the first set where we kind of did change that formation, that I feel that we lost that momentum a fair bit. And all of a sudden, St Mirren started to get back into the game. They had a couple of good chances. Joe Hart, we talked about the saves he made in the first half. He made a couple of decent saves second half as well. And without him, we could have easily been going to extra time. And I think we inadvertently invited that pressure on ourselves with those changes. So it's one thing to say that Brendan likes to shore up the game and revert back to something where he can have some control. I actually felt we lost the control when we tried to do that, and they came back out at us, and all of a sudden it went back into that game where neither team really had a rhythm. But yeah, look, overall positive, but just to echo your sentiments, I think I don't think we ran out the game as well as we could have.
Mahesh is saying that he reckons it would have been 6-5 Celtic if everyone took their chances. It could have easily been extra time, which is touched on what you're saying there, Shane. Andrew Galea is saying Maeda looks frustrated. He's a striker that's being played anywhere but. Could be part of it as well because the Japan squad he was playing as a striker. But for us, I think this is the thing with Maeda. In this exact Celtic team, he's better as a left winger than as a striker.
Yeah. Yep.
So the fact that he's playing on the right wing, which is basically his third position. Well, yesterday we started with two strikers, okay, and a left winger. So he was basically in his fourth position. That's what would piss you off.
Yeah.
Do you think you're a better striker than Kyogo? Well, you're getting called up to the Japanese team as a striker over your own club teammate. So you'd think if you're some sort of player with any sort of ego and self-belief, you'd think you should be starting at striker for that reason alone. On top of that, you've got Ida come in over the top of you when you're away at the Asian Cup, playing as a striker. So you'd be like, these two guys I think I'm better than. You've got O on the bench, who was also away at the Asian Cup. So you got two guys who are strikers at the Asian Cup, one coming off the bench, one playing way out of position. And you got two strikers there that he probably thinks he should be starting in his natural position over the top of. I can understand the frustration. I'm not saying that he's not good enough to play multiple positions, but if that's what the thing why he's getting frustrated, I can understand it.
Yeah, and I think he's better as the striker debate or not. I think, as you touched on at the start, I think playing as a left winger, I think is where he's at his most effective as well, when he's not actually leading the line. And on that right wing, he's been encouraged to obviously get the ball and to cut in, not hit the byline. I actually thought his best moments in the second half were where he actually did hit the byline. But he seems to be more effective at doing that when he's actually playing out on the left. So you're right. He's playing out of position and he doesn't seem to be as effective. And he keeps sort of being pushed there or kind of pigeonholed there. So, yeah, agree wholeheartedly that that's going to frustrate anybody.
Yep. So we'll go to a player focus. So I'm going to bring up some comments here, and then we'll just talk about some things here. So James Livingston starts off. Here's a thought: try Bernabei on the left wing rather than left back. I actually think that could possibly be the solution to two issues. The Bernabei issue that, whenever we play him at left back, defensively he's a bit all over the place. So that could potentially fix him if you put someone in behind him. But the other issue is we constantly look like we need someone on the left. Maybe if we played him as a left winger, it'd suddenly look like that almost £4 million player that we bought. I thought overall with Bernabei though, I thought that was probably one of his better games for us. Starting to get a bit of a run of games, and we'll talk about him a bit later on in the pod. But yeah, I just thought that's right up there.
I don't know. Just my only comment to that is we've just discussed how we have too many left wingers. Maeda has to be pushed to the right, so we're pushing Barnabé as well on the left. It's just like another left winger that we don't. And I mean, my personal opinion is I don't think he's a left winger. I do think he's, if anything, I could see him as a wing back, but I think he's probably just the reason why we think he's better as a left winger is because he's very good offensively and a little bit shit defensively. So it's just like, if you remember when Tierney was just breaking out, very, very good pushing up forward, pretty shit defensively, worked on that, and then look where he's gone. And I'm not saying Bernabei is going to go anywhere close to that, but sometimes at Celtic, you get players that aren't finished.
I was going to go with a different one, Johnny. I was going to say, it reminds me of Bolingoli. We brought him in. It was exactly the same.
Was a bit, yeah.
A guy who was more of a left wing back than an actual left back. Not quite good enough to play as a left winger. Not quite good enough to play left back. But if you had left wing, Bolly would disappear in, and you'd find him in the 10 spot. You'd find him at the right wing at times. You'd be like, mate, you're positioned in the other corner. You do realize we're going that way, don't you?
Yeah.
So you get all confused. And Bernabei's done that as well recently. But then we've got comment here from Patrick McLaughlin. It looked to me as if Bernabei was having his best game for us yesterday from what I was catching. And that's the funny thing. It's how bad has he been that we all thinking that is his best game for the club. Like, if that was a kid out of the youth academy, if that was Mitchell Frame, for instance, playing like that, we'd all be like, oh, give the kid a chance. But it's someone we spent almost £4 million on. Like, the money we spent on Bernabei, we got Matt O'Reilly, Hatate, and Maeda, pretty much those 3-4.
Yeah.
That's why I'm looking at it going, it's a bit of an issue.
But that's what happens when you shop around in that sort of market, is you're going to get hit and misses. I mean, like, arguably, most people say if even to shop around in the 10 million mark, you're going to get hit and misses as well. But I would like to believe that it's mitigated, at least to an extent. The more you pay for a player should be based on their proficiency. Obviously, other factors like league and stuff, but surely that shows that they're somewhat proficient, right? So, yeah, might have been just because he was South American and that added a premium and stuff. And he was he like youth player of the year or something? I don't know. It was. He had like a big reputation behind him, I think, at the time.
So Bernabei comment here from Jared. Bernabei took his pre-game coke, tried to beat everyone just to pass to the opposition, then got caught out of position and haul ass back to give away a foul. A little bit less shit each game.
Coca-Cola, everyone. That's what we meant.
Yes.
Coca-Cola.
100%. Robert Gibson. Bernabei couldn't defend his shit haircut.
I'm
not worried about the haircut. I'm thinking it's more the stash, mate.
See, but every single time I look at him, he looks more Australian. It's kind of, it was like mullet and moustaches are so big here. Do you know what I mean? Like,
the only thing he was missing is he's wearing a
across the
bluey.
world.
He's just not wearing a bluey. That's it.
Yeah.
Get the old singlet on.
Oh, Jesus.
Imagine that. Shane's got a mental picture going on now.
Oh, I do. I'm just having it. He's got a dart in one hand as well, really making it
Like a pack of Winnie Blues in one and, VB in the other. Wearing footy shorts and a bluey. Yep.
Jota was the exact same. He went with the old mullet and a moustache, didn't he?
That's why we loved him.
Yeah, that's it. So get on the Barnabei love. That's it. You got to
get a mullet. You've got my love.
Shave the sides. Get a dart.
Jesus.
Punching darts and breaking hearts. It's the Bernabei way.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. So next player we'll talk about, Palmer. Shane, you said that you thought he played well.
I did. I didn't mind his output at all. I thought, obviously for the first goal, credit to Calmac for the release to Palmer. But if you have a look at the footage, he's always looking. He's quite conscious of that late run Kyogo is going to make. He's always looking to cut it back. He's not going to hit it aimlessly at Ida, sorry. I thought overall his output was pretty good, and he was pretty heavily involved, really, for the second goal. I mean, it's his cross in that O'Reilly hits the bar from, and then Maeda taps home. But it's a great ball in.
You know the funny thing, Shane, because I'm in the Axon chat. That chat was like, Palmer does me hitting, he's shot, blah blah blah. People like, and then there was other chat, another group of men, same deal, and then someone sent a message, and then it was like, of course he does that, gets the assist after I put that message out. So James Floyd Palmer does my head in. There's one that I said he just looks slow, and he's got that Samaras about him where you just get him on the wing and he just looks like he doesn't really care half the time. But I noticed something. He looked a lot quicker this weekend. And you know why? He wasn't wearing black boots. There you go. It's one to that's one to roll up the Celtic Dars. The first thing I noticed, the cross come in, I go, where is his boot? Isn't good for that.
Well, I think he's up to 9 assists now across all competitions. I definitely think I can see the frustration. I definitely see the frustration from a defensive effort point of view. And I didn't think he was as exposed this week against St Mirren because of the fact that he was probably in a defensive capacity a little bit deeper. But I definitely get it. He doesn't buy in as much defensively as we used to when Maeda was on the left, right? And so to go from that to that is a big difference. But I think a little bit of the criticism of him's been a bit harsh. People basically saying that he's, essentially saying he's not Celtic class or shouldn't be anywhere near the first team. I think it's a little bit harsh. I think his output's been very good still, and definitely one I'd absolutely persist with.
I'm just going to say this. How many times have we been quick to throw a player under the bus as long as he's not Celtic class? Not just his podcast, as a fan base. If we had social media when Henrik Larsson come in, God, that would have been brutal. And why I'm saying that is, okay, Aaron Moyes, first half of the season last year, he was rubbish. That's what people were saying. Went to the World Cup, come back fit, and was one of our better players the rest of the season. Needed time to settle in. Jota always needed a 4 or 5 game run when he'd first come into the squad to get up to speed, and then he'd dominate. So he needed that. Palmer has needed that time to bed in and get used to things and get settled. Tilio couldn't get settled. He's come back here. Apparently, it was real bad homesickness. That was what I've heard for the reason he's come back. If that's the case, I don't think we'll see him again. Tiara is coming, everyone. I've got to order it. But it's one of them things where I look at Palmer and I'm like, there's a player there. And as you said, Shane, stats-wise, he's looking like he's ticking the boxes. But I don't know. There's just something about him, like the way he plays. It just seems a little strange. I don't know. I can't put the finger on it. The eye test. It just doesn't seem right. Robert Gibson's come up with what his problem is. He's saying that Palmer is 95% solid. So I think Robert's figured out what the issue is.
Fucking hell, Robert.
Jesus. Mate, look, maybe I just have a really sort of positive view of him just because of the fact that I really like chicken parmigianas, which we call chicken parma here. And so his name's Palmer. So maybe I'm blinded by the chicken parmigiana.
See, that only sounds similar if you have an Australian accent. Palmer and Palmer.
You know what? There's literally going to be a civil war here because of people calling it Palmy instead of Palmer. It's basically state-based for those who listen overseas.
Palmy.
It's not a Palmy, it's a Palmer.
It's a Palmer, yeah.
I'll die on that hill. It's not
Parmigiana is the whole word. Get it right, everyone.
Palmer. Yes, correct. Anyway, we'll leave that. Palmer got around some defenders instead of always cutting in. That was part of it. Jared saying Palmer is good when he's on. He's just inconsistent. That's what it is.
That's fair.
Andrew saying Tilio is better than Palmer. Robert, Tilio shit the bed and ran.
I think we just have to. It might not be at Celtic, but I think Palmer could be a great player for us. The chicken one or the South American one.
I just look at him and go, I think the continental side of football would suit him better. Like playing, like you watched him in Europe when we were playing, like in the Champions League, and that sort of speed and tempo and everything suited him better than what he's getting against packed defenses every week in Scotland. I think that's part of it. So, yeah. We've touched on Joe Hart, how good he was. Patrick McLaughlin, Joe Hart, no half stepped up the last 3-4 games. Lord Flashart, yeah, Big Joe's been good the last few games. Just a couple other comments here, just random ones about players. O has good highlights in his hair. Shame he's a crap footballer from Robert Gibson again. Robert's in drive-by mode tonight, I'll tell you that much. Like shots fired. I'd hate to see what you say about the Huns, mate. That's all I got to say. And we'll leave the final thought on the actual game to Robert as well. That game was about as exciting as a vanilla milkshake. What's wrong with vanilla milkshakes, mate?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
vanilla milkshake with.
Yeah, I'm sitting there going, that sounds pretty good to me.
Maybe we're all boring people. Who knows?
I know I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, there you go. Andrew Galea, it's a Palmer, 100%. So we'll crack on to Leo Abada. Okay, so I want to know, what do you guys think his future is at Celtic? With him being left out of the game against St Mirren due to his head not being in it, will we see him play again for Celtic? There's talk already that there's a couple of transfer windows open us where we could just loan him out. That's already been battled around. Johnny, what's your thoughts on the whole situation?
It's hard to not believe that it's for political reasons that his head is spun, which I think that's just part of the game. I adamantly disagree with people who say that football's not political. Football started as a political thing. It was founded for political reasons, working class people and all that sort of stuff. So I think we should be allowed to express our political opinions, and they all differ. When no two Celtic fans are the same, and sometimes that's going to piss players off, employees, and employees who don't like a culture move on. And I think that's pretty much what we're experiencing. We've got a very, very good player who doesn't agree with a particular opinion of some of our fan base, and that seems to be impacting on his performance and how, actually playing for the team, which it shouldn't. They should be separated. We had an Israeli player here for 10 years, and he clearly disagreed with the political opinion of a particular fan base. But he still was here for 10 years, and we still adore him. So, yeah, look, he's a young guy, and it's a different world now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we never see him play again for Celtic.
If we go through it, we've had, as you're saying, Israeli players at the club for the best part of a decade. Like, we had Berem Kyle, we had Nib Biton, we had a couple others I can't remember, but we had
El Hamid.
El Hamid was one I was going to say. We had Abada. So we've had at least 5 in the last decade, right? And the thing looking at that is, I think this current situation what we're in is what is the trigger point.
Yeah.
You imagine you're in Abada's shoes, and your national team manager has said that if you're at Celtic, you're not going to be called up for the national team. And there's Euros coming up. So that's part of it. He's going to want a chance. I don't know if they qualified or not, to be honest with you. I don't know. But he's going to want to play for his country. That's not going to happen. On top of that, he then had an injury, which would have given him lots of time to think stuff through. And then the third thing is, after the Hibs game, he was straight down the tunnel. Now, can you imagine if he's out on the pitch clapping the fans in a section where there's no flag, but someone happens to get the right angle on a camera phone? We all have cameras on us, every single one of us now. Can you imagine someone gets a photo and he's clapping someone that way, but in the background there's a big Palestinian flag?
Yeah.
What sort of shitstorm would that put him in back home? So I don't agree with the whole politics side of it. Everyone's got their own opinion on the situation. I'm just looking at it purely on the personal level for Abada right now by discussing this, being devil's advocate here. There's probably people that'll tune in that'll think, oh, you're some sort of Zionist pig or whatever. Aside with him. No, this is about the person. This is about Leo Abada, not about the political side of it or any of that sort of crap. Okay? Nothing to do with it. At the end of the day, I think a loan move to the MLS, which is currently still open, if Pete's right in the comments, I think that'd be ideal for him for 6 months, get him to the end of the season, and then we can reassess it. I agree with Andrew that he's gone. Pete was saying MLS is still open. Apparently, a loan would benefit him. Feel for him, he's got bags of talent. And then Robert's saying Abada wants to go. It's not his fault. He's Israeli and there's a large fan base pro-Palestinian. Exactly. Love it saying if the player worried about the situation of his family back in his homeland and the views of certain fans, the club should allow him to leave. Al-Hamed was allowed to leave for family reasons. Andrew Galiz, I like Abada, but let him go.
It's almost kind of for us to do that though, right? That kind of shows that to make him force out his contract shows that we're quite heartless in the matter. And actually he can't stick around for his own views or for family reasons or whatever it is. We can all speculate. But to force him to stay would be cruel when we're actually quite sympathetic to it. In the same way, in the same way that if we had a Russian player and we all were waving Ukrainian flags at the time and the Russian player couldn't stick as being pro-Ukrainian, we would be like, well, nobody's fault. We can't force you to stay here. If you need to leave, you can leave, sort of thing. Because it's a third person.
You've seen it in the let's be honest, in the Champions League, there was like where was Shakhtar Donetsk? They were playing based out of Poland. They went to an away game last season, I think it was, or this year just gone, and there was a bunch of people in there waving Russian flags at their team. And that didn't go down well. So you can only imagine the sort of things going on. It's not an ideal situation. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's what's best for Abada in this situation. Like I just think it's not a good fit for him, and I would have loved to have seen him just stay and develop and play and be amazing for us because we know there's a player there, but I don't think it's going to happen at Celtic, unfortunately. So I'd loan him out, get him some games, let him get his head right, and then if he wants to move on, we get the best deal for him in the summer, and off we go. Now, Shane, I'm going to give you the final on this one because you tend to be pretty switched on with this sort of everything that's going on in that scene, probably more than me. So that's why I left you till last year. Just don't get the channel cancelled.
No pressure. Look, I think it's a really delicate situation, and like you said, Jared, I'm more focused really on the individual. It's a very volatile situation, and I think a lot of people have very strong opinions on it. And I'm looking at Leo, who's a very young man, who's obviously, he's out and his head's in a bit of he's in a tough place. His head's not in the right place, and I think we can fairly assume why, but it's still assumptions. We don't know what he's going through personally and how he's taking it all in, and it's a lot for him to go through. And so I'm looking at it from the player perspective, and as I said, it's really delicate and it's hard to know what the right answer is here. What I will say first and foremost is I think, and we give Brendan a lot of criticism at times, and we've criticised him a fair bit for some of the things that he's done and said about players. But I think in this situation, what he's done with Abada to sort of wrap the arm around him and say, look, just take a bit of time off, my man, take a bit of a break, step away for a little bit, try and sort through your thoughts and how you're feeling and don't worry about the football was really the right thing to do. To give him that time, to not put the pressure on him continually playing and having to front up and press for selection, to say, just take the time you need. And that's the man management skills of Brendan that we've spoken so highly of in the past. He's much better at wrapping an arm around players in that regard than I think a lot of other managers. So I would love to think that in some capacity we would see him in a Celtic shirt again. He's only 22. He's a young man. He's there's still a lot of things to learn, a lot of maturity to go through, and this would have all hit him like a freight train. So I'd love to think that we could see him in a Celtic shirt again. I'm not 100% certain it'll happen. Maybe the kindest thing is for him, if he wants to progress his football, that we have to find him a move away. And if that's the best for the player, then I think as a club we should do that, and we should absolutely make it happen as much as we can and as quickly as we can for him, because he's a player that we all care about. This isn't his fault. It's not all down to him. And I just hope he can get his head right, and whatever's involved in doing that, so be it.
As Lorna's saying here, Abada's a great player, but let him go if he wants to go. And Andrew's saying he's done here, never to wear the hoops again. At the end of the day, Brendan's giving him a cuddle, giving him space, and that's the best thing for him at the moment. So, we'll watch this space on what happens there. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we could find a loan for him. Then it'd be off ski for a little bit. Now, I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to keep top. We're going to go to, is going trophyless an option at Celtic? Brendan Rodgers said it's not, and we must win something this season. 100% it is not an option. We must win. As John said earlier, we win everything. So, yeah, it's the best way. We've got to win something. And, yeah, I'm just trying to find the comment that I saw early on, which was, here's some comments here. Patrick McLaughlin, as long as we don't buy Harry Kane, we won't be trophyless.
That is good.
And James Floyd was, can't wait for the ultimate meltdown when we win the double. 100%. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But, yeah, I just think that was a bit of a Captain Obvious comment from Brendan there. We must get trophies. That's what we do. John, Shane, anything to add?
My only, I don't know if I'm right. I think I'm right. I was young at the time, but I think the only scenario which we as Celtic fans accepted a trophyless season was the Seville run, if I'm not mistaken, where we won absolutely.
That was the last one, wasn't it?
We won absolutely bugger all, but we got to a European final. And I think if that happened again, I think we would be appeased rather than pleased. Don't quote me on that.
We're not getting to a European final this season, Johnny. Just to
oh god, yeah, no, or next season, by the way.
Well, we've got to win the league to make sure we're a chance, right?
It's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's not an option, but it's a possibility, sadly, and we shouldn't really be in this discussion right now. We should almost, without wanting to sound too arrogant, we should almost have one hand on the league title. But for our poor performances over the course of a couple of months, it's a little bit more of a race than we intended. But it's absolutely not an option. It is a Captain Obvious statement. This club exists to be successful and to win trophies. To go trophyless would be
gross.
Disaster is a very strong word. I try to reserve that for things that are actual true disasters in real life. But it would be a complete and utter failure. And there's no way Rodgers could come back for a second season.
100%. So, next topic for another little laugh before we finish off on the blue card discussion. So, saw this article and was shared by some random on I think it was on Twitter or X or whatever it's called, one of those red tops. But I had to click on it for a laugh. Hamza Youssef reveals his ideal job is at Celtic if he wasn't First Minister. As fans say, be careful what you wish for. So, basically, what he said is the Cliff Notes version of, if I wasn't doing, to be more specific, he quipped that the position of Hoops chairman is what he would be doing if he wasn't in politics. So, Peter Lawwell, can you already just fuck off and we'll let Hamza come in and run the show and we're all good, please. You do us all a favour. I'd take that. What do you reckon, Johnny?
Oh, without expressing my political views too much, I'm not sure the chairman's role does a lot unless you're Peter Lawwell, and apparently you've got fingers and pies everywhere. So I don't know if it really matters, to be honest. It's one of those, you're just facilitating the board really as a chairman. So you just, I don't know, bringing the tea and the biscuits around and sort of have an agenda list and say whatever you need to say. So if Hamza Youssef wants to do that, he's more than welcome to do that. As long as all the Lawwells, and I'm going to go as far as all the Strackens, can just get the fuck out of Celtic and let us get on with stuff for a bit, I'll be quite happy. So, yeah.
Leave the laptop, Gavin.
Yes. Yeah.
Celtic property.
No, come on, he can't. He'll be Devo because he'll lose his save on his football manager career. Shane, you got anything to add?
Not really, and I'm not. I don't really have anything further to add. I'm only going to tie myself in knots. I'll just say it would be an interesting move. I find with political side of things, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword when you get someone in of a political side of things, and if you don't tend to agree with their particular viewpoints or what they stand for, whether that sort of yields a bit of unrest. I don't think that's the case here, but I don't really have much further to add. If he's a passionate Celtic man and someone who wants to see the club do well and see the club exceed, that's box one ticked, right? So from there, that's the most important thing for me, and then we go from there.
And if it's not about him, it's about the club and progressing and improving year on year on year on year. And if money comes in, the funds go back into the club, then that's the right thing. So next topic is the last one we wanted to discuss. Blue cards to be introduced in the future for a 10-minute sin bin will be used for dissent and a few other things. Is this a good idea? Now, while we have a bit of a think, I'm going to put Robert Gibson's comment up on the screen. Blue card gives me blue balls. Shane, I want to throw this topic to you. And while you're doing that, I will be mucking around off camera for a second.
Why did you put that comment up and throw it to me? I'm all for it.
What? Did something happen?
You got sin binned. That's happened.
You got sin binned on. You had your sin bin yourself. For those tuning in on the audio, Jared is a nice hue of blue to go with the blue card discussion.
No, I can't get the lights to turn off. Bloody cop cars behind me.
He's got the popo coming after him. Oh geez, there you go. I'm going to try and crack on as much as I can. Maybe that means I can't look at the panel that you're showing up on to distract me. I'm all for doing anything that will. I'm all for doing anything that will help with stopping abuse of officials from players. Right. I don't think officials and referees should get abused by players. I think anything that oversteps the line, there should be appropriate punishment, and players should be held accountable for that. And we hate seeing things. Referees should feel like they can go out onto a pitch and make a decision and not get absolutely torn to shreds verbally by players. And in particular, I hate the situations where players all crowd around a ref after a particular decision has gone against them. I always find that really demonstrative. So I'm all for anything that helps with that. You go.
On that, Shane, I saw something the other day and I pissed myself laughing and said, that is such a boss move. Why don't more refs do it? I don't know what league it was in, but went to the VAR and he's trying to talk to him and everyone's surrounding the ref. So what he's done is he's got his phone out, he's done a line, and then line, and a line, then he's walked back the 10 yards or whatever, stood there, and he's like, don't you cross that line. One person stepped over it, bang, yellow. It's the best.
That is good.
Here's your answer.
Well, that's exactly right. That's where I was heading, is that I just think this is an unnecessary change. You've already got yellow cards that you can issue. We already see them issued to players for dissent and to benches for dissent. We're at a time, and I think Ange really touched on this during his presser, we're at a time where we're actually making things more complicated in football unnecessarily. And all we're doing when we introduce a blue card, it's just another thing that a ref has to consider. Okay, I'm going to book them. Okay, am I going to sin bin them or is this going to be yellow? What constitutes a sin binning for dissent? It's just, we're just making it more difficult for referees and we're slowing the game down. Ange pretty much hit the nail on the head. I don't think we need it. Crack down on abuse and dissent and all that, but I think a yellow card is sufficient enough for that. So I'm not a huge fan of the idea.
As I said in our group chat, Shane, for me, the issue as well that I can see, and this was also said elsewhere, is that, suddenly the Huns need their penalty. Let's just instead of giving them that, let's give them someone in the bin for 10 minutes so they're playing against 10 men. That's the sort of shit you're seeing on Twitter. People are saying already, right? I'm not saying that I believe that the game's fixed, but what I find is, you touched on it, Shane, is the inconsistencies. What dictates is dissent. What's worth a blue card? What's worth a yellow card? What's worth a red card? What's just a go away, draw a line on the ground? That's the best way to handle it. Draw the line, step back, they can't come near. That's the best way I've seen it handled. But the thing is, you're going to have some refs, like if you went up to Willie Collum and you called him a see you next Tuesday, for instance, you called him that, he'd probably red card you. But if you went up to, say, one for the old A-League fans over here, a Strebray in the A-League, and called him the same thing, he'd probably laugh at you and just tell you to piss off. So there was a ref over here in the A-League for the guys in Scotland, Strebray Delosky, old Macedonian bloke, just gave as good as he got, and you could absolutely spray him, call him anything, and he'd just laugh at you, and he'd barely even book you. He was just dodgy. But then he'd always get suckered in for dodgy Sydney FC diving penalties. So, but that just shows, like, depends on the ref and their personality. So I don't want to run the risk where you've got some refs who are a bit of a snowflake compared to others, putting guys in the bin for 10 minutes that, the guy in the game down the road's not going to get a 10-minute for the same thing. So as I'm just going to bring up a comment here. Pete McGee, blue card is just tinkering for tinkering safe. And then we've got Andrew Galea. It's the most stupid idea I've heard of. The only sim bin that's any good is by the Cosmic Psychos.
Hey, good shout out.
We've got here, love it. So many foreigners in our game now. How the hell would an official know if a foreigner's swearing at him if he smiles when he's swearing? It's all about how you deliver it. Rob Gibson, the game will end up with more cards than Valentine's Day.
It's Wednesday coming up, everybody. Make sure you're sorted for Valentine's Day, by the way. Public service announcement.
I just love it, saying, how would Willie know he's being cussed at if the players are Japanese or Korean?
And particularly the way Kyogo delivers it.
He'd do it with a big smile on his face while giving him a pat on the back, like, I'm your best bud, but you're a piece of shit. And he wouldn't know. It's like, oh, you big piece of shit. And he's probably thinking, oh, we're going to go get some sushi later or something like that. And he's been told you're good fun. Anyway, Johnny, I forgot you have the last little chat on this bit.
Look, I'm not sure I have a fully formed opinion on it yet. I'm not necessarily as strong as some, which is it's a useless idea. The reason why I am not like that is I never played soccer. I was a rugby player the entire time through school and uni. That's all I ever played. Watched football, played rugby. Right? You could not get within 5 yards of a ref in rugby. You would get sin bin. That's where that's come from. Obviously, we'll talk. That's where the talk's right. You would just get any sort of back chat. You would get eventually. You would get sin bin. What you would get is if it was a foul, you'd get 10 yards, right? So you get 10 yards further forward to the try line and stuff. I think I'm not entirely sure dissent, as some others have pointed out in our group chat, that we already have a mechanism for punishing dissent, which is a booking. And then if it's a further dissent, it's a sending off. We already have that mechanism. And it's like we've been discussing here. It's up to the referee to decide whether they want to apply that or not. So I'm not entirely sure why that's come about. I think cynical fouling, on the other hand, which was the other thing that was expressed with for the blue card. That was the other reason why you get a blue card. I mean, I think, is that not part of the game? Is that not like the tactics of a game? Is to foul cynically and taking a red card or taking a booking, and it sucks, but that's the mechanism of football, right? Is you get to do that, you get your consequence, which is a booking, a sending off, and a foul. That's the game. You can't stop that. You can't stop players from doing that. The bit that I really would like to see completely changed is the drama involved in trying to sway a ref's opinion. Now, look, again, we're going to get a lot of people saying, well, we've already got a mechanism for that. If you think somebody's diving and going on, it's a booking. There could be a more severe punishment for that. Not as much as a red, but more than a yellow. Because I think most people agree that sort of needs to get cut out. Why we've decided to go with these particular two things might be like, well, these are the two easiest things to sort of control. So the rest of it's a bit ambiguous. These things are quite clear cut. Dissent, cynical fouling, it's kind of night and day. So we're going to trial a blue card. I'm not a fan of introducing a new card. Like, I think it's fair to say that I am more in favor in trying to find a new mechanism to punish and getting these sort of things out of the game to make it faster, to make the game more enjoyable, to make it, back to it the way it was, where you could sort of like kick someone hard and then not roll about on the floor and it'd be stopped for a foul every 5 seconds. That's kind of what I wanted to go back to. So I agree that we just can't have it to it. And people have expressed really, really good opinions, which is the teams are just going to sit back. They're just going to sit back for 10 minutes until they work out when they get their player back and they go back to 11 minutes. Not actually, maybe losing a sub would be, that's more of a tactical punishment than going down 10 men for 10 minutes. I don't know. So I don't have full opinions on it. I like the sentiment, but I think blue card is a bit. It's just nothing. It's just a bit of a wet fart. It's just. Yeah, I mean, nobody really wants it, but it happens.
Where did that come from?
Oh, jeez.
Maybe it's what I had for dinner. I don't know.
He's on a bad carry, okay? Give it a rest. No, it's just one of those things, Johnny. Like, you got playing rugby, I got playing basketball, and it's the complete opposite. We badmouth, we talk all sorts of crap to the refs and opposition and everything, right? Basketballers. And so you build a reputation. We had this ref where I used to play back in the day, and I hadn't seen the guy for probably a good 10, 12 years or something like that. And I saw him in the chicken shop a couple of months back just up the road here. And he's turned around and he's seen me come in. And before he even said hi, he just went technical foul to me straight away.
Yeah.
I got because old habit. And I go, oh, geez, muscle memory. I had a bit of a laugh with the guy and got on with it. So it's like, I understand both sides of it, but I don't think they need that blue card. Like, if we just go through some last comments here, like Andrew Galea was, I've played and supported football my whole life without a friggin' sin bin. Stupid idea. James Floyd, have fun at the pub, mate. Pete McGee asked yourself how many times you've actually seen players getting in the face of the refs in the SPFL game. Is it really an issue? No, not really.
Not in our game, no.
So love it saying, so basically blue cards will be racist against English-speaking players because the officials don't have Google Translate. Robert Gibson, the card system as it has stood the test of time since the 1970 World Cup finals. And Mahesh is saying that mega rich club owners that want blue cards, they want to lose games to the Reds. Well, how about you players stop annoying the living crap out of the refs and let them do their job? Why should we have to bring in another card? All it'll take is just one referee to just go on a blitz, or like a couple of weeks of him just going on a blitz going, oh, what's that? Here's those lines, as I said. You crossed over yellow card, because as the season goes on, what happens with the yellows? You get suspensions. Suddenly, the coaches are going to tell their players to shut up.
Mm. I honestly will be shocked if it actually happens. I think the testing stage, actually testing it in matches is one thing. I also think testing it with the public and supporters is the other part of it, which is why we're all talking about it. So I just don't. I think the overall sentiment from the experts, the ex-football players, from all of us fan media, not happening. I just don't see it ever going through. Personally,
and Pete McGee says a strong ref doesn't need a blue card. Yep, give us more Pierluigi Collina referees every day of the week. All right, everyone. I think we'll wrap the pod up there. Thanks for tuning in as usual. We appreciate each and every one of you every week joining the shows. We've got our social media at the top of the screen here at Celtic Down on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us Celtic Down Under. Look for the boxing kangaroo logo, obviously. Yeah, Johnny, Shane, we'll go to our final thoughts before we wrap it up. So, Johnny, you can go first.
Okay, sure. Well, I went on a tangent for music this week, and I found out, and I'm sure other people know this, but I did not. Do you know Michael Cera, the actor?
Yep.
Did you know that he was also a musician and is actually a very, very good musician?
Is that McLovin?
No,
no, it's the other one.
the guy who's in Scotty Pilgrim.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, cool.
And he was in that World's End film that I always thought was very, very funny. All the celebrities in the apocalypse. Anyway, he's like an indie folk singer. It's clearly his voice, and he's actually very, very good. The band's called Clay Pigeons. Give it a listen. It's if you like that sort of trippy, indie music, it's good.
Shane, you can go next.
I go tentatively. I've already inadvertently stolen your earlier one, so I hope I'm not going to steal the second one. Coming in off the long run a little bit. For those who don't know, Australia lost in the Asian Cup, went out in the quarterfinals to Korea. And post the Asian Cup, the national team manager, Graham Arnold, made a couple of comments which I completely disagreed with and found really frustrating. He called Australia's quarterfinal loss a huge pass in terms of an overall pass or fail for the tournament. And then he made a comment in which the tournament was successful for him because he had two eyes on the next World Cup and it gave him a chance to test players. I found those comments really disappointing and frankly disgusting. A quarterfinal loss is not a huge pass for Australia, and it never should be. And furthermore, the comments basically disparaging and denigrating the Asian Cup, which is the premier continental cup that Australia is part of, does us as a nation and Graham no favours with the Asian football community. So really disappointing comments, and I think if he had his time over again, he wouldn't make them.
I disagree because Graham Arnold is an absolute fud. Sack him. Anyway, my final thought is, okay, we all saw the one that should have been a red card at Ibrox with Bruni's mob, right? And there was two of the exact same sort of tackles over here in the A-League on the weekend that the VAR didn't get involved in either. So what I'd like to say is, doesn't matter whether you're Australian or Scottish football fan, we're all kindred spirits. We all have shite refs everywhere, and their VARs don't know what they're doing. So we feel you. Feel your pain. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.